So welcome back, everybody. Next session, we're talking about IoT electronics ecosystems here together with Fabio Violante. I hope I pronounced your name right, but
Yes.
CEO of Arduino and co-founder. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Fabio Violante. I'm the CEO of Arduino since 2017. So it's been quite an interesting journey right now. We at Arduino have the largest open source hardware community in the world. So it's quite interesting to be leading this organization, and we hear a lot from people what they're doing with technology, and we try to get their feedback. So it's quite interesting to be in touch with millions of people. It's quite a strange opportunity for everybody, I think.
Very, very good. Thanks. Yeah. So thanks again for taking time and being on the show. And of course, I mean, everybody knows Arduino for let's say they opening a new world, changing a paradigm, making it like accessible for normal people to get into electronics. So can you just maybe reiterate like what's the vision around Arduino, and also like did it change over time? But maybe you can share a bit about the vision and what you did and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so at Arduino, one of the key things for Arduino was basically democratizing the access to technology. So making complex technology simple to use for everyone. So this means allowing people that don't have any specific background. So you don't need a PhD in computer science or electronics to use an Arduino. So this means that everybody that has a little bit of creative spirit can tinker with technology and make something work. So what changed over the course of the year is that when Arduino started, they were talking about the co-founders, Massimo, David, and all the other people in the company, Tomaigo and David Mellis. They were just thinking about, making microcontrollers, that is a specific type of computers, available to the masses to do physical computing. But now that we have a lot of connectivity, and we can, thanks to you, we have also long range, low power, worldwide network available. This was a big shift in our market, because people started connecting stuff, not only doing stuff with Arduino in a simple manner, but also starting to connect stuff for their home, for their factories, and this is a radical, it's a radical shift. So what we are trying to do as a company behind the Arduino is, of course, fostering the open source movement and helping people to develop more and more creative ideas and technology, but also, helping enterprise to develop their project with our technology, but making this very simple. Because one of the key aspects is being inclusive and enabling a broader audience and a broader number of people to be able to build these technologies. Because today we don't have enough, electronic engineers that can do this. So we really need to make the technology simple to use in order to allow more people to work with technology and to create more IoT connected products.
Yeah, very interesting. I of course totally agree. Is that the lower the barrier, the larger the audience, the greater the inclusion, and super interesting. We started off today and where we presented also statistics of the 7.7 billion people in the world. Only 25 million know how to code on a professional level that can deliver production code, and 9 million of them are Java developers working on legacy ERP systems, and probably only one maximum they know IoT. And then if you look at IoT, then you need like all these different competences. So that's why if we're not going to make it easier, de-risk, time to market, then for sure this industry is not going to fly. So you mentioned briefly that you're also moving then towards the enterprise world. I mean, of course, for them it's the same thing. Like if they can be faster or be de-risked, then that's great. Can you tell me a bit about what you're doing in that segment?
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea there was a sort of discovery that I did when I joined, because I'm friends with Massimo Banzi, that is one of the founders of Arduino since probably when I was a kid. But I never realized how many enterprise companies are using Arduino. So when we started digging into the customers, we found customers like Apple, Nissan, Renault, and things like that. So I said, okay, this is not a toy. This is like a professional tool that has been used by people, but they were using it mainly for prototyping purposes. Now, what we are trying to do at Arduino is basically to allow people not only to use Arduino as like a quick, fast prototyping tool, but also as a production tool. And this means, that we have to work in order to be compliant with the requirements of those people, and this means temperature range that is compatible with enterprise grade use cases. This means support that is a professional support, so that people that have problems can rely on us. This means longevity of products, because one of the key issues is that a number of people use Chinese clones of Arduino that are totally legit in some cases when they don't use our logo and our name. But in some cases, you buy a product and then you don't have any information about the longevity. So it exists today and doesn't exist tomorrow. So what I did with the team at Arduino was basically take all this input from the market and start creating these product lines, like the Portenta family, the MKR family, the new Nano family, that are designed in a way that people can rely for building their own product. Of course, there is a huge work that we do every day in order to take this complexity and make it simple for people, because you mentioned a number. So 25 million means all the people that are able to program stuff, but this means programming high-level languages. But when it comes to embedded systems, they are very complex because you have to cope with real time, you have to cope with things that people normally don't know, like I2C, SPI, these kind of things. They are tough for us that are engineers, so I can imagine for people that are not like engineers, computer engineers and things like that. So it's important to simplify those things, because the important thing for technology is not to be a solution in search for a problem. It needs to be a solution to people's problem. So this is what we're trying to do, is using the power of interaction design to make things simpler, to make things not dumb stuff, but basically manageable by average people. So if you look, for example, at the number of people that apply for whatever job, probably at Things Network you receive like 3 million resume every month, because you are very popular and very loved platform by engineers. So
almost that many applications.
Yeah, they have a lot of applications, and they mention Arduino in probably like 70, 80, 90% of the people they mention Arduino as one of their competencies. So this means that Arduino has the power to be the lingo, the common language for this new generation of people, and this is where we are shooting for. So making this sort of common language, lingua franca, for everyone, that allow people to build their IoT application without having to cope with complex framework, installing complex build chain and tool chains and things like that. So this is what we are doing, and that's the reason why we are also making a lot of evolution to the framework. But we can talk if we have time.
No, we have all the time. That's great. But it's really interesting to see how you're evolving to the enterprise world, and where there's in the enterprise world definitely a lot of demand, of course, for this. And I think also, if I look at the Arduino brand, and that's really in the industry pivoting towards something that's being not only well respected by makers, but also by enterprises. And so to moving the conversation to ecosystem, is that now you've got this huge backing of ecosystems, because as you say, like the people in university or in school, they get to teach, that they are taught Arduino, and then they come in let's say they're looking for a job, and then they bring that knowledge. So what's the like what's your vision, and what you think is the power of ecosystem in IoT? And I think you always have like ecosystem and you have ecosystem, right? So I think Arduino is typically ecosystem, right? Like because it's so open and embracive and inclusive, what you say.
Yes.
But can you share a bit about your ideas? I mean, why do you think it's so critical that to have a true ecosystem? Why that's important?
No, the ecosystem is really important because there is when we talk about IoT application. So IoT is now has been probably deprecated as a word because it's been superseded by AI and machine learning, but it's extremely important still. And still we are just scratching the surface of the IoT application. So IoT is crucial, but there is a lot of complexity. So when it comes to an IoT application, you start from the sensors, you go to a node that becomes as a gateway between the sensor and the network, and then you have the network complexity and everything. So all these steps are strange because it's not like in the software world where you have a vendor and of software and the customer. It's a world where you have like a physical piece of something that in some cases is also customized. It needs to be rugged because it needs to be on the field, needs to work with batteries, it needs to work in strange conditions. So the ecosystem is probably the most important thing in IoT because it's the place where everything comes together. So that's the reason why I think open technology are important because these allow people to be more confident in and also have the possibility to use multiple vendors, multiple suppliers. If you're in Australia, somewhere in Australia, or if you are in China, or if you are in Italy, or Netherlands, or US, so you need somebody that can support you. And the best way to support you properly is by providing something that can be used, learned, taught, and managed by common people. And that's the reason why we're pushing a lot. So the effort we are doing, for example, for the professional market right now, we will be pushing in the next few weeks programs to onboard a number of partners across the globe that are already using Arduino or that want to be certified on using Arduino so that they can support a number of people. And also with the idea that they can spread the word, and given the fact that the basic technology is open, they can basically increase the number of people that can know this technology. So the customer is not tied into something that is that has a vendor lock-in. They are interchangeable, and so the importance of the ecosystem is fundamental. The other move we are making is opening our own supply chain to customer because people are normally overwhelmed by the complexity of going from the idea to the physical product in the field with device management, connection to the things, network, and all those things. So what we're doing is I learned this job of being the CEO of an electronic company by hitting the wall myself. So I know how complex it is. So what we're doing is trying to avoid these to other companies that want to do this experience and that want to embrace this fantastic journey of developing something from scratch. So we are opening our ecosystem and making all our supply chain available to other people that want to do customized version of Arduino, that want to do their custom projects, that want to do their plastic enclosure, whatever, circuits, firmware. So by networking, it's not that we want to do everything. We are trying to create a network of people that can share ideas and that can share competencies and that can leverage this knowledge.
It's super inspiring that you're applying the same vision on how you build like let's say the initial phase of Arduino, and you're applying that to the enterprise market as well. And it's very recognizable. I think when we talk to CIOs, you mentioned the word lock-in. Like there's no CIO of a big company, or there's no IT program manager that's going to allow a single company to have some IP that's locked in there, and then and that is it's just a no-go. And I think what changed in the landscape. I'm in IT now for almost 12 years, and when I started, then there were always people that did an MBA. There were IT manager, but now the IT managers are actually IT knowledgeable. That was not when I started 12 years ago as a programmer. But and it's very interesting, because if you go to them and then you can do a POC with some very nice proprietary technology, and they say, let's just show that it works, and then you go into the details, say, but like if this is locked in this way, then it doesn't work. And I think what we see the same at our end, and that you have to be very adaptable. And also, indeed, for you guys, like it's very interesting to see is that so just dive into the part you said around certifying partners to deliver, because the challenge of opening up is there is a vulnerability to it that you're exposed to lower quality. So I'm very curious to hear what are your plans there to let's say protect the Arduino brand in this enterprise segment.
Yeah, so basically we have a number of companies that are already quite knowledgeable in the world. So we started working with this pilot customer in order to understand what are the criteria that we have to apply as the bare minimum, quality level that needs to be applied. So I'm pushing on our team to do an extra diligence, because we don't want to get people just get an Arduino stamp just because they mention they know Arduino. So we are doing a very selective work. So we are restricting the numbers, in some cases pissing off a number of people that wanted to be qualified, but we're trying to get out of the market with something that is credible, with people that are really willing to develop the market, and more importantly, with people that share our core values, because the openness value and this sharing value is fundamental. In many cases, you see people profiting from the open source. So it's quite interesting, because in the software world, for example, open source means a little bit is more meaningful than in the hardware world. When it comes to hardware, for example, what we see is that our designs are taken by a number of people, but we have very, very few contribution. So we're trying to select those partners that are able to understand the key value, that can implement improvements to our design, that can share those design, and so on and so forth. Of course, what we're doing as well is helping people to do a safe usage of the open source licensing models, creating a little bit more awareness. Our people like Alessandro Ranelucci, that leads the maker business unit at Arduino, and Andrea Riqueta, that leads the IoT business unit at Arduino. They are basically at the pro. So basically, they're working together in order to understand how friendly are those licensing model. How we can improve. We created dual licensing model for some stuff because people want to protect, in some cases, their intellectual property. So there's a lot of work to be done, but at the end of the day, sharing information for us is very important. We think that the real power of Arduino is this ability to share information. And a good usage of shared information is very important. So we are trying to foster this kind of customers and partners at the beginning, so that they can seed the market with the right criteria.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and I think it's always very. We are also an open source company. The core of our product is open source, and it's interesting that you mentioned is that comparing open source hardware with open source software is really something different, because the open source software is always alive, right? So the moment you stop maintaining it, it can be open source, but it's like it's free, it's there,
Is
but
that?
it's that. But hardware is different, right? So like it needs to be finalized. There's like a stamp, like this one goes into production. And with software, with continuous integration, it's like, okay, this one is now in production, but in 10 minutes there's another version. In half a day there's another version. So there must be as a CEO quite a challenging dynamics, right? So are you never tempted to like go into non-commercial use, or say, hey, I'm gonna do it, like because you have to run your business. So what are your considerations there to find the right balance to, okay, this IP I want to hold and this IP I want to share? I mean, this must be very challenging.
Yeah, so what we realize is that so you're right. It's very challenging, and it's what is my question mark every day when I wake up in the morning. So because the key point is that you do a lot of investment. We invest millions of euros every year. So when you buy an original Arduino, everything goes into R&D. So I invite all the people that are listening to us to buy original Arduino, because everything goes into R&D. It can be software, it can be hardware, cloud, firmware, whatever. But there is nothing that goes in anybody's pocket. It's just going back to the community. But anyway, so it's a very important question that we have every day. So I think that in some cases, what we realize is that the design are so complex that basically it's important to share the ability for people to see the design and understand everything of the design. But basically, open sourcing everything in some cases is just creating a possibility for somebody to copy your design and not benefiting the community. Also because there is a risk of knockoff being created with lower level of quality. So for the Pro, for example, segment, we're trying to be a little bit more cautious about what kind of people are taking our design and what they do with those designs. So we are a little bit more strict. But in general, we are in favor of sharing information as much as we can, as soon as, of course, this sharing doesn't become dangerous, because people think the design is safe, and then somebody can create a knockoff that is not as safe or not as secure as we expected. Because, for example, security is another aspect that we put into a lot of the products that we are doing. So basically, if you look at all our new connected products, they have a secure crypto element on them, on everything. So even though the protocol or the higher level protocols, communication protocol, are secure by themselves, but we put also secure crypto elements. So all those are the aspects that we take into consideration when developing the products. So it's a balance. It's a complex balance. We are learning a lot. So we're trying to be as open as much as open as we can within these safety boundaries.
Interesting that you say that you're adding secure elements for security, and then the roles of open source is, it's not only sharing but it's also guiding in the right direction, and it's like almost a duty to say, okay, like if you're such a front runner like you are, then also it's like it becomes a bit of an obligation that you show and pave the way. So like if we're gonna like build this future IoT, then we need to make sure that they are properly provisioned, and there are ways to properly secure them. But it's interesting because you're taking on so much responsibility. And I mean, as you said, you're how many people are you with Arduino?
So it's about 110, 115 people. Wow.
Yeah. So, but they all need to get paid, right? They all need to do groceries. So you have to build a business around it.
No, thank you very much. So that's important, because people don't realize that open source doesn't mean free. Because at the end of the day, we have people working on firmware since the very beginning, and they developed everything, all the framework for everything that is supported today. there is a lot of work that needs still to be done on the security front, on the connectivity front, on the IoT front. It's a never-ending work. So it's important that people understand that it's not just getting the latest and greatest chip, because the software, as you know very well, because the work we are doing on your side as well with the Things Network is really amazing. So basically building the largest long-range, low-power network in the world. It's a huge endeavor, and people would be very grateful for that. So we are building from the other side, from the bottoms up, the device, and from the cloud side, we will be interfacing with your technology so that people can create advanced dashboard, but basically getting packets and data from the transport from the Things Network. So it's a huge advancement, and it's important that people understand that whenever we charge for something, I think that also the Things Network will be charging for the enterprise services is not just because we want to get rich, but it's also because we need to pay those salaries of people that are working on this technology. That this is in their interest, to support this kind of efforts, because more secure networks, better devices, easier to use devices are the way for the future.
Yeah. I think that's a very great way to end this session. So buy a genuine Arduino board. That's for everybody. That's for sure. And I think also there's still this possibility to donate. So thank you very much for sharing your ideas. It's thanks a lot for your time, taking the time in these.
Thank you very much. And, thank you very much, Pink, and congratulations. For what you're doing is huge. I've been to the physical conference, but this one is really, really huge.
Yeah.
So congratulations to you and your team. So you have been quite. It has been a quite intense day for you, I think. You've been here for 24 hours.
No, yeah. So actually, I am the lazy one. So I just brought my kids to bed actually, so I can do my thing. No, but the team is on top of this, and they are doing amazing. And yeah, I was not expecting to be this so active, and people super interactive, and it's good that we can do this in times like these. So thank you, thanks a lot again for your time. And probably we're in the UNDP protect and detect program, so we will be talking soon, I guess. But that's a wrap, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Ciao.